There's not as many traditional JRPGs released nowadays, but there is a new one out on the PS4 called Revenant Saga. But is this a saga that's worth seeing through to the end, or is it just an RPG mess? Revenant Saga is a traditional turn-based JRPG that leans on the more casual side of role-playing games. Graphically, the game has two different looks to it. Outside of battles, you have a PS1 era looking sprite-based JRPG, and then inside of battles, all of the characters and monsters are 3D models. The game story, which I won't spoil too much about, revolves around the character of Albert. He's in a small town with a friend named Anna, whose parents end up getting sick. There's a doctor that comes to the town who says he can cure them, and ends up doing an experiment that ends up turning Albert into a revenant, basically an immortal with a demon inside of him. From that point on, Albert is dead set on trying to find the doctor and stop him before he ends up doing more experiments and more evil deeds. The revenants aren't looked upon too fondly in society, so Albert has to keep a relatively low profile. Due to the nature of the revenants, demons, and the like, the story borders on good and bad and the balance between them. Along the way, Albert ends up meeting more characters, of course, and ends up joining his party with a total of a 4-person battle team. The game is pretty heavy on the dialogue and text. There is a lot of chatter between the various characters, and every time you make it to the next storyline point. If you're someone who doesn't really like reading a whole lot, you're probably not going to like a lot of parts of the game, as there is just a lot of text to be read. As far as the battle system goes, it's relatively basic. You have the ability to, of course, attack, defend, use items, and spells. There's also the ability to transform. When you transform, you end up increasing your stats and have access to certain moves, but it ends up filling a gauge. If the gauge ends up fully filling up, you basically go berserk, where you lose all control of your character. During that time, though, also, you'll end up pulling off blitz attacks that if you press X when it ends up prompting you to, you'll end up pulling off other special moves. Since the game has a very casual approach to it, you can end up turning off things like the battle animations and even go full auto in most of the fights. So when walking around the map and getting into those random encounters, you can just hit the auto button and easily take care of them. And even turn it on so weaker encounters don't end up happening at all, you just end up getting a little bit of experience. You also have your standard fare of earning experience and leveling up, increasing your stats, as well as being able to earn money to buy new items and equipment. One thing that's cool is you end up getting modifiers for your equipment, and you can add them to your various weapons to increase things like attack or adding status effects like poison. There's also a separate set of points that you can end up earning after certain fights that can then be used at a special shop which you can access from your menu at any time, where you can buy a few select bonus items, including rings that end up giving you experience every time you end up making a step, or increasing the amount of experience you earn per battle. The game does feature 3 different difficulties. Of course, playing on the easier difficulty, you'll easily be able to take out most of the enemies in the game, though there still is the occasional encounter where you may end up running into problems. If you're a JRPG veteran, though, you're going to want to make sure you're playing on normal or potentially hard right from the get-go to get the best experience out of the game. And if any part ends up being too difficult, you can adjust the difficulty at any time. The game's story progression is pretty linear. You have a quest log to always let you know where you need to go to next, and it's pretty straightforward as far as a lot of the paths on the main world map are concerned, and even in dungeons, they're pretty simplistic. There's a little bit of puzzle solving here and there, but it's pretty easy to figure out. Of course, there are bosses at the end of most dungeons and throughout the course of the game, and some of these will end up putting up a decent fight depending upon what difficulty you're playing on, as well as there are also encounters against normal enemies where sometimes you'll fight one of the standard enemies in the area, but you end up getting a giant version of them. This version, of course, will end up doing a lot more damage, but potentially has better rewards if you're able to take it down. From the technical side of things, though, the game ran smoothly. I didn't run any major glitching, crashing, or slowdown of any sort. Revenant Saga is available now for $14.99, and it's on PS4, PS3, Vita, PC, and where it got its start is on mobile, which makes sense for why the game is a relatively casual JRPG. If you're on PlayStation, though, the game does feature a full trophy list, including a Platinum. Overall, Revenant Saga is a rather simplistic linear JRPG that may not end up curing that hardcore JRPG itch you may have, but if you're looking for something a little bit more laid back and casual in your JRPG experience, Revenant Saga may be for you. Overall, I did enjoy the game. It is a little bit longer than I actually expected and had some good music to go along with the adventure. With everything said, I'm going to be giving Revenant Saga a 6 out of 10. But anyway, guys, it's going to wrap up this review. I'd like to thank you for watching, and of course, I Hope you enjoyed.